Get a kick out of something. Jump for joy. Walking on air. Make my day. Out of sorts. Down in the dumps. Just grin and bear it. Sour grapes. Puts a damper on.
Get a kick out of something. Jump for joy. Walking on air. Make my day. Out of sorts. Down in the dumps. Just grin and bear it. Sour grapes. Puts a damper on.
Get a kick out of something. Jump for joy. Walking on air. Make my day. Out of sorts. Down in the dumps. Just grin and bear it. Sour grapes. Puts a damper on.
But it's that first journey that I'm going to tell you about today. What people get a kick out of the story is, as Rich mentioned,
everybody will have their day in the sun. I get a kick out of that. I get a kick out of that. So especially for an organization like YouTube, the question is, who's your competition?
It's this weird thing I get a kick out of, you know? Yeah.
What's going to make us happy? What's going to make us jump for joy? Well, all the things in orange that I have listed here, you know, this is from the architect perspective, so.
You know, so it's not like jump for joy, you know, huge grin on your face. It's something else. It's something quieter.
When you see hard times coming, you just jump for joy because you know you're delivered.
And make you want to jump for joy just because you get to go to class with her.
And she is walking on air. I've known her for 5 years, graduate student.
You know, just like Ralph said, I felt like I was floating on air. There was just so much energy, so much creativity. So thanks.
And I was just walking on air at that point. So that was my very, very first time performing on a concert.
But she did everything she could to make my day filled with fun. And
internet shouty men showed up. I mean, those make my day just as much as, you know, a bunch of thumbs up.
In the end, you might remember the memorable lines, "Make my day," when he is about to shoot the bad guy. "Make my day, punk."
To make my day better, to make somebody else's day a little bit better.
You seem a little out of sorts today. What's going on? And she complained about having to fly there with her daughter.
Back muscles a little bit. And obviously he's been a little out of sorts his last couple of appearances. And he's refusing to tell them that he's hurt.
So whenever you are feeling out of sorts, as much as possible, not to take it personally, to realize that this is conditioning playing out.
Do you feel out of sorts? If so, you have to ask, what's the point?
And then 3 weeks later, you go home and you're down in the dumps because you're like, I don't have a job.
Okay, if you're ever down in the dumps, check out Ujong Oppa. So we're going to just start off with a couple of questions.
Japan, what Japan's doing well, and we're thinking, we're down in the dumps, we've got to copy the Japanese and do what the Japanese do well.
Depressive symptoms, or maybe you know you've just really been down in the dumps and not yourself. It's important to treat depression.
If you're without, don't just grin and bear it. Sneak up to the garden and try not to scare it.
This is one of those things where you just grin and bear it, but I would consume 2 to 3 drops 3 times a day of
absurd. So you just grin, bear it, and you roll your boulder.
I just sort of grin and bear it.
Okay, so I lied. I have one more question.
It's not sour grapes. They don't look fun. There's certain levels. There's a lot of nervousness that I have around.
Hated him? He said, I didn't want your sour grapes anyway. There are many who pretend to despise and belittle that which is beyond their reach. Which is where I think the phrase money is the root of all evil came from. People were upset that they couldn't get money, so they just said, I didn't want your evil money anyway. Okay, here's the last fable. This one's kinda sad. The fox...
fine. But it seems to me it's sour grapes. Obviously, he's against my position. And
as far as I can tell, we don't have any sour grapes between us.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Like when it was all over, he didn't sort of passive aggressive.
But also, and this is not no one would have sour grapes if it was like you did better than everybody else. There's the question of monopoly.
Curious. It had really, honestly, kind of put a damper on our trip, even though overall it was a great trip. So they came home, and what did they do? They wrote a letter.
A damper on the Soviet Navy. Don't control these things and put a damper on international trade in between these nations. So.
Can feel good about? Does that not put a damper on, ultimately seeing this through?
Michelle, the First World War really put a damper on all kinds of travel and
because of the travel.
You couldn't really.
Comparisons that really put a damper on your happiness. So the question is, how do you use these tools and treat them like tools to get their benefits while avoiding the drawbacks?